Harmon is a nationally recognized leader in workforce development with over 25 years of experience in public-private partnerships, higher education, and federal initiatives. She is the CEO of Manufacturing American Careers, a consultancy helping organizations align workforce strategies with national defense and energy priorities. Previously, Joanie served as Vice President of Workforce Development at IACME, the Composites Institute, where she launched and scaled America's Cutting Edge, or known now as ACE, a DoD-funded initiative creating a national network of advanced machine tool labs. She later led the expansion of the program to include metal, supporting defense casting and forging workforce modernization, and K through 12 career pathways. Her work continues to shape America's skilled labor pipeline, advancing national security and industrial competitiveness through strategic program design, funding, and implementation. To summarize all of that, she is a longtime industry advocate, a workforce development powerhouse, and one of the boldest voices I know championing women in manufacturing. And the most important thing, she is my longtime friend. Joanie, thank you for joining us today. Are you ready to get started?
Yes, thank you so much for inviting me to be your first guest. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Today,
it looks like I'm getting.
Go ahead.
I've got a message that says I have poor network quality, so if at any time you can't hear me or I start breaking up, just wave at me.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you for telling us. And yes, this is technology. We are all used to it by now, I'm sure. So, for everybody today, we are going to talk about specific topics that Joanie and I have faced in our career journeys. Joanie and I had a conversation as we were preparing for this webinar, and we found that we had a lot of similarities in our journey, but maybe just enough differences to make our experiences something that you could relate to and learn from. I'm certainly many of the things, Joanie, that you and I have experienced, everyone has experienced at one time or another. So we're just going to dive right in and get going. And remember, if you have any questions, raise your hand and I'll be able to see that, or just type it into the Q&A and I'll be able to see that as well, and we can go from there. All right, so our first topic I'm calling redefining the go-getter. And I wanted to start with something that might raise a few eyebrows in the best way. Joanie, when you and I were talking, we were just talking about how in our respective experiences, we've always been that person that just does everything. We don't say no. We do whatever we're asked. We get it all done. We juggle multiple hats, and that's great. And we're lucky that we are able to do that. I guess multitasking is real. But you said something that I found really interesting, and that is doing more than expected isn't always the best path as we navigate our careers. Now, you and I were probably raised on the gospel of go above and beyond. Gold stars, overtime, all of it. We did it, right? But can you walk us through what you might mean about that not being the best path? And maybe when does overachieving start to backfire in our careers?
Sure. It's such an interesting topic. I talk to a lot of women and men, and I hear the same thing over and over. They're getting really burnt out. And, you know, doing more than expected can seem like the fast track to success. But without clarity and purpose, it can actually lead to burnout and misalignment, which I think we see that happening a lot across all industries. What I've learned is that a sustainable impact comes from doing the right things, not just doing more things. Asking myself the question, am I being busy or am I being productive? That's one of the things that helps me keep alignment with my goals, because being busy feels right, but busy and productive and having impact are not the same things. So just trying to ask that one question can really narrow the focus and get back on track.
Yes. And I think you and I were just talking, actually, not that long ago, about how there are times in your career where you maybe shouldn't be doing some of the things that you're doing, like you should be delegating it or you're beyond that. So how do you maybe navigate that kind of situation or that discussion with your boss about these aren't the challenges that I need to feel productive. I'm happy to, transition it to somebody else. How do you have that conversation with somebody in your experience?
I think putting a positive spin that's saying this is about sustainability for the organization. We need to have more than one person that knows how to do this task or this activity, and being willing to train that person takes the onus off of the boss and puts it back on you, but it's going to be done to your specifications because now you've trained someone. But what I found, Marcy, it isn't the conversation with the boss, it's myself. I have to make myself let go of doing things and saying, okay, someone else can do this just as well as I can. It may be done differently, but it can get done. And the way it needs to be done, even if it's not done to what I would consider 100% perfect and right, 50% is fine.
Yes.
I can go do other things that really only I can do and require my time.
Do you think women struggle with this in particular?
Yes, I think we have the hardest time. I was always the person that said yes, yes, yes to everything. I didn't know the word no. Oh, you need that done? Sure, we can do it. We didn't always have the capacity in terms of human resources to do the things I would commit us to. So to lessen the load on the team, I would take on more and more myself and feel guilty for saying yes, like it was my responsibility to then make things okay for everyone else. I think we want to make things okay a lot.
Yeah.
It's really about creating that even keel.
I do think, women are probably hardwired for this type of, I don't know, I don't want to say reaction or skill, but just this ability to do a lot of things and to forget about, where this time is going to be sacrificed. Because if you're doing more and more at work, you're going to be working later and later, and maybe, people are going to suffer as a result. So
suffer. That's what happened to me, is my health really started on a decline. As my career was on an incline, my health was on a decline. And that was the sacrifice I was making. No one was asking me to make it. I was making it under my own, decision, but I couldn't stop.
yes. Yeah. There we go. Sorry, technical problem there.
That's okay. I think we need to know that no is okay. It is okay to say, I do not have the bandwidth to do that. You're not likely going to get fired, and you're probably not going to be demoted. I mean, right. It opens up the door for a conversation that protects you, your health, and your well-being as much as it helps the company, because, if you have to bow out and say, I'm sorry, I can't do anything now because I have ran myself to death, no one benefits, right? You got to put the oxygen mask on yourself first.
Yes. And I think it's good to remember that if you go to your boss and you say, I can't do all this, we need to find a solution. I like my job. I like working here. I want to make it work, and I want to be of value to you. And then they don't find a way to work with you. It doesn't mean the company's a bad company. It means it might not be the right company for you. And, that's when you make decisions. So I think it's important to remember that. So transitioning then to work-life balance. And I think some of us probably these days feel like it's kind of an elusive thing, work-life balance, or is it just like a buzzword? Is it real? Can you have work-life balance? I really do believe you can. I think you have to really navigate that type of desire with purpose. You can't just expect it to be handed to you. What is your secret, or something you've learned over the last couple of years to find that balance? Is there such thing, or is it really more of us managing through a controlled chaos with intention in our lives?
I think it's more about controlled intention, integration with intention, because it's not really a 50-50 split. There's seasons in our life when we have more things going on that we need to shift focus either to the work side or to your personal life. And that happens to me, but I stay grounded by remembering why I do this work, why this matters. It's really to help people thrive in meaningful careers. It's about strengthening our nation's competitiveness. I was always very driven about doing something that mattered, but purpose gives me clarity and kind of keeps within the swim lane instead of trying to do everything.
Right.
And that's really important. I try not to spend more time focused on things that don't matter. It goes back to that question. Am I keeping busy, or am I being productive? Does this move the needle for me and my personal goals just as much as it does for my professional goals? And not everybody has that moment of where they hit the wall and say, I better start taking care of myself like I did. I had that moment, and I hope others don't get to the point where they have that moment, which is why this conversation is so important, right? You really want to take time and think about that. The other thing, Marcy, you made me think about this, is I have learned so much from the younger generations in the workforce. They really kind of demand that work-life balance. Money isn't their driving priority. Doing things that are meaningful, having a life that is not just work, work, work. They're not as focused on the work, work, work as maybe some of the older generations are. And I've learned a lot. I've also learned a lot from our counterpart, the men. I see them, taking time to do things that matter to them and having some downtime. And that doesn't mean that they're any less effective. I think in some cases they're more effective because they're not burning themselves out. Right. So we can learn a lot from how they do things also.
Yes, I think that is a great point. And I think we have to also throw into the mix that typically, and this is not a slight to our male counterparts, but typically women manage the stuff at home too, right? When we get home, cooking the dinners, making sure the kids are ready for school the next day. And I think I've also learned from some of my friends, how they balance those responsibilities with each other. So it's good to maybe manage your relationships a little bit to get that work-life balance too. But excellent point. Yes, we can learn from our male colleagues as well. So we never want to say otherwise, and they can learn from us too. So I think it's important to remember that. So great points. And yes, young people are much more aware of those things that matter to them. And I think that's great. And hopefully they can keep that with them as they, navigate their careers going forward when they get a little more challenging. So let's transition over to change. Nobody likes it. We can say we do, but we really don't at the end of the day. And sometimes change happens to us, and sometimes change happens because we make a choice. You and I personally have gone through significant transitions in the last year or so. I was in a 26-year career my whole career was at one company basically. And, I was asked to leave my company. And it was difficult, shocking, and all the things you would imagine, right? But, I chose to use it as an opportunity to focus on what is it going to take to make Marcy Offner happy? How can I find that balance again? How can I not be all about my job? I want my identity to be more than my job, right? And then you made a very purposeful choice to exit a role that you loved and really had become identified with because you were also seeking those things. So what have you learned over the last year that helps you face change, especially the kind that shows up uninvited or refuses to take a hint, like in your case, like you just kept kind of going through it day to day?
Yeah, change is the guest that shows up uninvited. And we're not always happy to see that guest. And I've faced a lot of unexpected leadership shifts, funding uncertainties, We did a lot of work with the Department of Defense and the federal government, so it was a lot of uncertainties with that. And even the personal decision to step out and take some time off, that was a big change. But, change is where innovation and growth actually happens. It's those hard things that you go through in life that really build strength. My sister and I were talking the other day that diamonds are born under the pressure of force, and that's where we really find what we're made of and strength. So, when we were scaling America's Cutting Edge, we faced all sorts of changes in policies and partnerships and logistics and trying to get legal contracts approved and things like that. But we embraced those challenges and built a model that it's across all 50 states. I'm really proud of that work. And I was able to step away from that career because of the team that was left behind. They're so capable and they're still doing amazing work. That was made that decision a little easier for me. But I had to go through a whole new identity, like who am I and what do I want to spend my time doing? And starting a business, kind of like what you've experienced with getting the 503B?
503C6.
all those numbers, trying to get that, starting your own business. I'm not trying to discourage anyone, but if I'd known, I may not have done it because it's a lot of work. And some days I want to fire myself. Just want to be like, go back to work. But it allows me to focus on what I feel like is a priority and to better find that balance between my work mission and my personal mission.
Yes. I mean, I understand the comparison to you see something you're really proud of. I'm really proud of what I did in my career for the last quarter century. I feel like when I see something that I know I had a part in, I feel proud of it. And I never wavered from that. Like I never felt like I deserved what having the change thrust upon me and I honestly don't harbor any ill will or anything towards that decision, but I will always feel proud of what I have done in my career. So I think it's important for everyone listening in to remember that your accomplishments are your accomplishments, no matter where you go. If change happens to you or you make that change, your accomplishments come with you. And I think, you have to hold your head high and proud and, people recognize who you are and what you've done, even if you don't think that they do. Okay, we're going to move on to, we're getting close to your favorite topics here, Joni. We're going to talk about supporting the next generation. And that happens to be a very important topic to women in the composites industry too. We talk about it all the time. Of course, we're focused on young women and how we can encourage them to join the composites industry and in any kind of job, whether they're working in a shop or they're working in corporate. We want more and more women to see the advantages of working in our industry, but I think we can expand that to young men too. In manufacturing in general, especially in our shops, there is a shortage of good help. And I think there's a shortage of training actually in the industries sometimes. And the programs you've been involved with and what you're trying to do are trying to change that. So we know that there's great talent out there, and we know that we need to attract that talent to our industry. But what do you think is the best way, those of us that are on the call today who are established in our careers for the most part, or have been working for a few years in our careers, how can we be supporters, mentors, managers, or even just allies, people that are out there that people feel comfortable listening to or coming to with questions or concerns? Even if you're just in the lunchroom in your office, how can you be that person that encourages people to stay in manufacturing, but also encourages people to join manufacturing?
It's easy to get caught up in your own day-to-day activities and kind of not think about this, but you bring up a good point. We need to mentor others and give them our time to help them find the right pathway. They just don't know what the options are. often.
Okay.
So sharing with them what our path was, and I don't know very many people who went to college, got a degree, ended up in a job in the degree field that they got their degree in. I got a master in public administration, so I guess it's a little bit like that, but that's not really workforce development, you know? We just kind of find these pathways and explore them. But if someone had given a roadmap, that would have been really helpful, right? And probably like you, I've had mentors all along my career. Some of them I wanted and some of them I didn't, but I learned from those that I didn't want sometimes were the ones I learned the best lessons from. You know, bosses maybe that were a little hard on me or whatever, but I needed it. It's really about being a mentor, and if your company does any outreach in the K through 12 space, for our listeners, going and volunteering to go share and encourage and answer questions about your career and how you made the decisions is so very important. I talk to young people all the time, and one of recent conversations was with a young man. He didn't feel like he was smart enough to be an engineer. He liked it, but he said, I can't do the math. Well, there are so many aspects of engineering. I'm not saying you don't need to know how to do the math, but it was just like, it wasn't even an option for him. He said, I'll do business. Business is like, well, you have to do math in business too.
Yeah.
But he just wasn't even willing to make the leap to even explore it. And I thought, he would be a great engineer.
Mm-hmm.
He just didn't know that there were other paths besides, you know, what he might have in his mind.
I think that schools, whether it be high schools or junior colleges or colleges, aren't doing a good job with laying out career paths for people. You know, they're studying and they're getting a degree or they're getting their diploma, but they're not really, I mean, programs like what you've worked on are, but most are just kind of saying, okay, here's your degree, good luck. As I know, for me personally, I have a young niece and she is majoring in marketing communications. I think she's following in my footsteps, but I couldn't convince her otherwise. But she didn't know where to go to get an internship. She didn't know what to do or how to do it or what the different fields were under her degree. And I just think maybe educators could do a better job doing that. But I will say that going into a high school or going into a college and talking to young people, in addition to helping them find their path, is one of the most rewarding things. It really is. And you get to share your experience and they think you're, they think you're really cool because you're out there doing it, And so if you are inclined to volunteer, I think that is a great, easy way to volunteer. It's not a lot of time and effort on your part. You just, pick a day and you go in and you talk about it and you answer questions. So I would encourage all to consider that.
Right? Like if your niece who isn't quite sure what to do with her path or what the future might hold, just having her talk to someone else that isn't you,
right?
Sometimes they get hearing from us. Like today, I reached out to someone that I knew that had a lot of experience working at an ad agency and PR firm. And I said, would you just talk to this young lady and kind of encourage her and give her a sense of what the landscape looks like out there job-wise? Because she's so discouraged with trying to find a job as a new graduate who's just a tremendous young lady. Like, goodness, I wish I could hire her. She's so great. And there's so many of those. So we need to encourage students and reach out to them, talk with them. The other thing is if your company is a company that offers internships, maybe offer to be a mentor or spend, maybe just even an hour with this intern telling them what you do, how you got there, that sort of thing. You don't have to dedicate your whole summer to the intern unless that's something you want to do, but just having those conversations are super important.
Mm-hmm. What do you think as a mentor? Because I believe we are all mentors. We don't know it sometimes. So I think it's very important to always be conscious of the way you speak with people and the way you treat people in your work. I think people watch you, especially if you're in a leadership role. They see how you interact, how you treat your employees, how you treat other people. What do you think is a good piece of advice for a young woman, since this is women in the composites industry, for a young woman starting off in her career? What tools, and I don't mean like, hammers and nails, but what tools does she need to succeed as she moves forward in her career?
I would say young women in composites and even manufacturing broadly, women need visibility, they need a voice, and they need validation. Having a mentor, whether it doesn't have to be a female mentor, even a male mentor, or have both. You can't have too many mentors in life, seriously. To help make them aware of how to get positive visibility. Optics matter, so being able to put forth the best projection of yourself, when to talk and when to listen. That's kind of important too. And then encouragement with the validation that they are on the right path and that they're pursuing the right interests that will help them grow in their career. I think that's just very important.
I think it is too. I think that those are great points. And I will echo that your mentors don't have to be women. You will have, if you have a successful mentorship path in your life, you will have both men and women mentors. And I think that's very important. And when I think of my mentors, I have a good mix. And it's been very beneficial to me even to this day. So, well, now we're going to jump into the fun stuff for a moment before we take questions from our audience. Hopefully they have some questions. You just launched your own business this last year, American Manufacturing Careers. Can you tell us about the mission behind it and why this really matters right now? And then when you're done answering that, I have one burning question for you, but I'll let you jump into a little bit about your company first.
Sure. Thanks so much. Well, our mission is to help be a part of the restoration of U.S. manufacturing by developing a workforce that's skilled, diverse, and future ready. And we do that by working with clients who have programs and they really kind of need direction on how to scale them or how to find funding that can help support those programs and grow them. That's what I've spent my last decade in my career doing. So I have a few ideas about how to do that successfully. And we design programs that meet industry needs while lifting up the communities around them. So very regionalized approach with national guidance on how we should be pulling this together. But things that are done at a regional level are often much more successful than things that are done broadly because it has local ownership and it has the local culture and flavor, which is important. So we've been working with a lot of different organizations where we're just helping them kind of figure out how to create resiliency and sustainability in their programs.
Nice. Well, that's exciting. And obviously it's really timely right now with all the talk about bringing onshoring back here, and trying to encourage more manufacturing. My burning question is, really, I don't know if you'll be able to answer it, but how exactly are women going to save the future of U.S. manufacturing and the workforce in general?
Well, that is a burning question. I think the only way that we can do this is being through collaboration. We're better together. As I tell my clients, collaboration. You do not need to think of others that are in the same space as competition. How can you partner and leverage resources in order to do more? It's going to take all of us working together to do this. This is an enormous task ahead of us as a nation to regain our superiority in the global economy. We really have to work together to do that. And manufacturing, the best time to plant a tree was 100 years ago, and the next best time is now. We got to do it now, but we have to figure out ways of using innovation to make it faster, embracing things like AI I read an article, there's 4.1 million people eligible to retire just this year. And then you think of all those that went ahead and took early retirement.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have some big gaps in our workforce, and technology is what is going to be needed to help drive those efficiencies and still be able to do the things that we need to do, which means you need a workforce that understands the technology. So workforce and technology innovation go hand in hand. You can't have the innovation, then 10 years later come along and have the workforce development programs to support that innovation. We have to go hand in hand. That's not really women necessarily, but women is a part of that. We need to step up and not say manufacturing is not for us. It is. It's for all of us. There's so many aspects. I mean, look at you, Marcy. You weren't making widgets and gadgets, but you were very much a part of manufacturing. And me too. I didn't manufacture anything, but I was still a part of the manufacturing narrative. We all have a story to tell.
Yes, and I actually think women are very adept at collaboration. So I think that your overall message there is a great one. And I also think while we're collaborating, I always say this every time I get a chance to speak, I always say it. The important thing for men and women is to remember the things that make us individuals and unique. And when we do come together, we can do amazing things together. So I think just on the AI forefront, if any, women listening, or if there's any men listening too, and you have the time to learn a little bit about it, so you can help bring that into the present. Because a lot of people think it's 10 years away. A lot of people think it's tomorrow, but I haven't seen a lot about how do we actually use it, other than in some very specific instances. So great points. And I wish your new business will come together, and I'm sure you will be very successful as you always have been. I really appreciate you sharing your stories, but I was wondering if any of our audience has any questions for you. If you do, you can raise your hand and turn your mic on and your camera and ask a question, or you can pop it into the Q&A. I've had a few people making some comments so that I know it works. So if you have some questions, pop them in there if it's easier for you. But so we'll give it a minute or two to see if anyone has any questions. And Joanie, I just will keep talking until we see one.
Yeah, or suggestions,
Yeah, suggestions.
I have a lot of experience, and we love to hear your suggestions for the benefit of the group.
Yes, or your experiences, anything you've experienced yourself.
I see some names on here. I know you're not shy.
Yes, you know them.
I see a few, so we got some folks.
And it's okay if you don't have questions, but we just wanted to give you the opportunity. So I think, it looks like we have a question. Margaret, do you want to turn your camera on, or can you? Let's see. I'm allowing you to talk to us.
Margaret's not shy. She is the chief storyteller of IACME, and when I worked there, she did she still works there. She does a tremendous job with telling the stories and really capturing the human side of manufacturing.
You still talk now, Margaret. There you go.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Oh, and there you go, on camera. So my question is, and maybe it's for each of you, I would like to know, what is the best piece of advice you would give to, let's say, a 21, 22-year-old coming into manufacturing in general? What's your best little nugget of advice that you would share?
I'll let Joanie go first, since she's our guest.
Yeah, that is such a good question, Margaret. You always have the best questions. I would tell them to explore as many aspects of manufacturing as they possibly can, to be curious, to be part of the solution. Don't be bringing problems to your boss all the time. Come up with solutions and look for ways to collaborate with your team. Don't try to just do it alone. Ask for help, provide help. Be a good teammate. But I think really the big thing for me is being curious and exploring all the different aspects, because there's so many things probably beyond what that new person in the career even knows exists within the industry. And go to conferences if you can.
Yes.
Network, network, network.
Yes, those are great advice. I guess I would tag on to that I would encourage young people to stick their nose into things that aren't part of their job, just to learn. You know what I mean? Like if you see something at your place of work that you're interested in, but that's not really in your job description, that doesn't mean you can't learn. You can't say, hey, I'd like to watch. I'd like to sit in that meeting just so I could learn. Or, hey, I might have a suggestion to make that work better. I think of a woman who works for Scout Boats. Her name is Tracy Davis, and she runs the vacuum infusion shop there. And she is self-taught. Like, I mean, she just wanted to learn. And so she made it her business to learn. And now she like runs the vacuum infusion shop. And she's an amazing woman on top of that. And this is while she was all going to college. So, and she's still there. And so I think some of the greatest joys I've had in my career have been things that weren't part of my job description that I just asked to be a part of, and I got to be a part of it and learn a lot. So that would be my piece of advice.
Excellent. And I'll
Great
just throw in
question.
one thing, having been an intern and shepherded several interns through, there's no such thing as just an intern because they're going to do amazing things before you know it. So be nice to your interns.
Yes. Be nice to your interns, Margaret.
This is a fidget spinner that I play with all the time because this is one that one of our interns made out of recycled carbon fiber composites as part of his project. So they're not just an intern. Look, they come up with ways to, this was a hot thing at the time. And here I am, 5 years later, still spinning.
Awesome. Thank you.
Good question.
Okay, we have another question. I'm going to allow the mic and allow the camera. Go ahead. I think it's Kim Hooden.
Hi, everybody. IACME seems to be showing up and asking questions today.
We're happy to have you.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here. I guess what I was going to say is more of a comment than a question, that when you were talking about mentors and people that you're learning from and talking about the interns, one of the things that I've found, well, first of all, there are people in this room today that have been mentors to me, whether formally or informally. And when you were talking about people learning from you and things, it's, they're always watching. People are always watching. And so thank you to those of you who have done that for me. But one of the things I've found as I'm getting older in my life and career is I'm learning a lot from the interns and from the younger, newer people that are coming in. And so I've always thought of mentors in a more traditional sense of it's someone older and who has been in the industry longer than you. But I don't think that's the case anymore. These wonderful new young people that I'm meeting anyway are teaching me all sorts of things. So I just wanted to throw that in there. And thanks for having this. This is a great forum. I appreciate you.
Well, thank you. That's a good point about the interns. I learned when I was running the intern program at IACME, I learned so much from them because they looked at things very differently and they would ask questions that we just took for granted that it was the way it was because it was the way it was. And they say, well, why do you do that? I'm like, I really don't know why we do it that way. Now I need to think about that. Is that the best way? And should we even be doing that? Yeah. We have a question in the chat, I see, from
Yes, Paul. I was just looking, yeah.
Yeah.
Joni, I'll let you answer that.
Well, I don't know that I have the most current answer of how it's being used currently in manufacturing, but I will say that they are standing up an institute, a Manufacturing USA Institute in Artificial Intelligence. So it will be more prevalent in manufacturing in the near future. To me, I think it might still be a little bit the wild, wild west, and maybe manufacturing isn't using it in a formal sense, but they may be using it like, hey, how do I write a proposal? Yes. Can you help me put together a slide deck or things like that? But, I know IACME just released under the ACE program. Margaret, you may be able to talk about this. Dr. Schmidt's last, wasn't that in Industry 4.0 in artificial machine learning? I think is what he did. I know.
Yes, smart manufacturing.
I'm sorry?
Smart manufacturing.
Smart manufacturing, yeah. I know Oak Ridge National Lab has done a lot of research around that topic, but if anyone else knows, Marcy.
Well, I'm in marketing, so I will admit to using it on occasion. But I have seen some, automation starting to incorporate AI, and I have seen a lot of programs for manufacturing companies about how to plan for AI for the future. And I'm hopeful that companies will start to take advantage of those educational opportunities, because it is going to be an education, and you don't want to be the guy racing to the finish. You want to be the guy that's ahead of the pack, and understanding how it works. So I think maybe that's a future topic for one of our breaking the molds. We find a woman who's working in the AI field and she can come talk to us about it. I think that would be a great topic. There actually is a woman that I'm thinking of. Her name is Vicky Holt, and she kind of pioneered some automation. So I bet she's doing some. So I'll do some research on that, and maybe we'll have a topic like that.
Good question. You got us thinking.
Yeah. So I have a question I see there's another question. I also have a question that's been in the chat for a couple minutes. I'll ask that one first, and then we'll go to our next question. This question is from Shelly Benyon, she's the general manager with Hawkeye Industries. She says, you spoke about the power of staying focused on the responsibility specific to your role. What are your suggestions for empowering your team to do the same? Great question. And second, how do you approach managing up with that same focus, helping leadership stay aligned with their core responsibilities? What do you think, Joanie?
Ownership and accountability. Giving the individual ownership of the lane and holding them accountable for that. That's one of the good strategies for doing that. I wasn't always good at that. I will just admit it, because I'm very nonlinear thinker, and that was not my strong suit. I will be honest with you. And I had a leader who said, we need to stay in our swim lanes. And I was like, I don't know what that means. I really don't. I have a pond that I swim in, and there are no lanes. But he was right. And see, that was a mentoring moment from a male colleague. My boss really helped me to see that a little bit differently. So hopefully you have a leader like that, but if you don't, you can manage up and talk about the importance of having each person have some ownership of specific tasks and why those are important, and really having good strategic goals as an organization and showing how each of those feed up into that goal.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think for me, when I was managing a team, I did try to keep them focused on their specific responsibilities, but I also wanted to recognize that they are learning beings. And so I would pay attention to the things that they were interested in and try to find a way to incorporate that into their role, to keep them challenged and interested in what they were, tasked with, rather than having them kind of stray and not focused on the day-to-day, but say, oh, that shiny thing over there is what I really want to do. So I try to find a way to bring a little bit of the shiny thing into their job. And I think that was helpful. And it also gave them an opportunity to become more well-rounded in the business. So I would say, yeah, for the day-to-day, you have to focus on your responsibilities, just like we all do. But if you have team members who are interested in doing a little bit more, just find a way to kind of weave that into their job description. And leadership is more of a challenge. And I think for me, what I've always tried to do is let my supervisor or other leaders in the organization know, hey, you hired me to do this. Let me do this for you. You have a lot on your plate. You need to do this. And I need you to do that so I can know how to help the business. And when I need your help, you are going to be the first person I call. because you're going to have the information I need. And I think usually they've been pretty receptive to that. I think in general, senior leadership has those types of people have a certain aspect of needing to control. I don't think that that's an insult. I think it's you have to, because you have things you need to make sure happen. So I think giving them permission to let go a little bit is important. And it's hard to let go, as Joni and I have said. But I think giving them permission to let go and to trust in you is kind of a way to keep them aligned with their responsibilities, which is hiring the best and brightest people to get the job done. I don't know if that answers your question, Shelley, but that is our answer.
We're sticking to it.
If anyone else has advice on that, feel free to type it into the chat. I have one more question here. I'm gonna make your mic accessible. I'm sorry, this is a little awkward. This is a new platform for me, so I'm learning it, but it's Shen. She can ask a question. Go for it.
Thank you, Marcy and Johnny. Great, inspiring stories. I really enjoyed hearing your career journey. I'm Shen. I work for Superior Industrial Solutions. We are a distributor of composite and chemical materials. I highly resonate with the first topic that you guys discussed, which is a lot of women professionals are being perceived as people who can do everything, multitasking, and how do we prioritize that, right? Doing the right things versus doing all things. We are busy because I view a lot of things are productive things. We need to manage up, we need to manage down, we need to manage work, we need to manage home, we need to coach young generations, and we need to make the work-life balances, right? And so to me personally, I am busy because I view those things are important that I need to do and provide to other people. So my question is, do you have any tools you guys use or any practical practices that you do on a daily basis that help you clear your mind, see the priority, and kind of know what is really is important and productive, and what are just things that are making you just busy?
Great question. Joni, do you want to take the first stab?
Sure. This is Shen, thank you so much for the question. I've heard such wonderful things about you from Marcy. I understand you're going to be in a panel with her later in the fall, so that's exciting. I have a bit of a non-conventional way, and this is something that I adapted after I left my job. And I'd like to say, when I left, the Institute did not fall apart because I wasn't in all the meetings. It continued and thrived. Right. So please know, I thought I had to be in every meeting. You don't have to be in every meeting. You don't have to take on every task. Other people can do those things just as well. So please, please, please give yourself permission to prioritize and not do everything. That is so important. But one of the things I adapted when I left is journaling to help clear my mind and get tasks on paper. I'm very much a paper pen person. You may find that you like digital better. Google Keep is an app that I use on the go to put things I need to do, and let my mind stop thinking about those things. Like it's in there. I'll come back and look at that. I don't have to keep replaying that, afraid I'm going to forget it. It's in there. That has been very helpful. And just taking time for meditation in the morning, doing a weekly reset on Sunday evening to get my thoughts together on what I want to accomplish for the week, having clear goals. And as I wrote a business plan, those are things that you have to come up with, is your clear, measurable, SMART goals. I have those in front of me. I know what I'm supposed to be working on and why I'm working on those. So keep in mind your why. Why are you doing it? And that does keep you very productive and in that line of sight. But those are some of the things that I have adapted since I left, and I encourage you to just say no to some things. It's okay. I promise.
Yep. A lot of those things that Joni is talking about, I also have incorporated into my day-to-day. One thing that I do is I schedule myself out for lunch. I make sure that I have an hour on the calendar every day that's for me. And if I work through that lunch hour, that's on me. That's my fault or my choice. But lots of times I get up, and this time of year I might go sit outside for 30 minutes and read a little bit, something not related to work. So I think that that's really important too. And then the other thing that I do is I actually make a business plan for myself for my job. So like take McLaren Composites, I'm working on strategic marketing and communications. I try to listen and identify the priorities, and I build a quarterly plan, and I kind of try to stick to that plan. And if I get those things done, I can do all those other things that are the nice to haves. It's not a fancy plan. It's on an Excel spreadsheet, and I just kind of identify priorities and deadlines, and it kind of keeps me organized. So just something I actually learned in my job previous to McLaren Composites too, that business plans are really important. So pay attention to the company's business plan, and that will also kind of help you define your priorities too. Sometimes we get mired in the little details, and somebody says, oh, it'd be really nice to have a video that does this, but did they really mean that you needed to go do that video too, this year, right now? Maybe not, right? So just kind of remember those little tips.
That is such a good idea. I wrote it down. You have such good ideas, Marcy. And
if I could find a job where all I did was give ideas, it would be awesome.
I love it. Me too.
Anyway, well, we are at 2:01. Oh, wait, I have one other question. We'll take one more question. I want to be sensitive to everybody's time. Let me unmute you and get your camera going. Okay, I think it's Terry has a question. You can unmute yourself now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm sorry, I just noticed the time too, but
It's okay.
I wanted to mention that something I used to use a long time ago and need to get back to is the Franklin Planner system. When Shen asked about some tools, I really don't know why I got away from it, because it was awesome. And you can Google it. I just did. They're still around. Their store is no longer around, but you basically will list everything that you have to do, and then you score them A, B, C, D, E, F, G, however many things you have. And then you prioritize those like 1, 2, 3A, 1, 2, 3B, etc. It's tied in though with goals and values. It's a whole small part of a system, and I'll just leave it there. If you'd like to explore it, you might like it. It's something that worked for me, and I highly recommend it.
I forgot about that.
And thanks, everybody.
Good tip. Good tip.
Sure.
Yeah, I remember those. Yeah, I haven't used one in a while, but yeah, they were great. I remember everyone wanted one. So great tip. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, this event has far exceeded my expectations today. So thank you to everyone who's still on with us. We're still 34 strong. That's awesome. I really appreciate, the time and effort it takes to carve out an hour. Joni, thank you for your candor and your stories today. We shared a few laughs, and sorry, somebody's calling me.
Oh yeah, you have a 2 o'clock.
They're very insistent. There we go. Your perspective is so important, and I really appreciate you being honest and open today. And to our audience, if you've enjoyed this episode of Breaking the Mold, stay tuned for future conversations. I think we have our next topic might be around AI, which is awesome. I'll start working on that today. But our series will feature more incredible women shaping the future of composites in manufacturing. And I guess my last piece of advice for everybody is remember that sometimes the boldest thing you can do is not go above and beyond, but go exactly where you need to go in that moment. And then I think you'll be okay. So thank you.